Commissioner Iverson to the principal's office, please. Principal office for Commissioner Iverson. Welcome all to the Board of Commissioners. Today, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. For anybody who is of Irish descent, happy St. Patty's Day. I'm not, I don't care. But enjoy the corned beef and cabbage or whatever you might eat today in Guinness. We're going to start with an invocation by Reverend Buddy Harrington of our Interfaith Council. Actually, our Interfaith Council president. Reverend, thank you for coming.
Very welcome. I come bringing a book, and it looks like it's a long prayer or a short sermon. But actually, it's commercial because I gave one to Sarah over there. We're having a concert tomorrow evening at Dixie High. Okay. And we'll be singing things about unity in faith and about America and a few things about all the religions working together. So it's almost a miracle what we do here in St. George. So that's what I'm representing.
Let's get it on the record, though. What time?
7 o'clock. Dixie Desert Hills High School Auditorium. That's 828 Desert Hills Drive. So you go out to Bloomington, hang a left on Brigham Road, and it's up the road off the right.
Desert Hills, 7 o'clock. That sounds like a wonderful time.
And it will be. It'll be a number of good songs, and especially the Dixie Color Barbershop Quartet. Those guys love to sing, and it will be fun.
Excellent.
Free admission.
Will you please join me in prayer? Okay. Heavenly Father, we come before you with gratitude for all the blessings you have given us. We're thankful for the place in which we live, work, and share with our families in this great nation, and especially in southern Utah. Please strengthen the bonds between us as neighbors, friends, and families. Help us support one another, celebrate together, and face challenges with courage and mutual respect. Let your presence guide each action. Let kindness, cooperation, and generosity flourish among us, reflecting your love in all that we do. We live in a time of war and distress. Help us to find correct solutions to resolve conflicts so that the possibility of peace can reign. Lord, bless our homes, schools, workplaces, and public spaces. Grant wisdom and discernment to our community leaders. May their decisions promote justice, peace, and the well-being of every member of our community. Send your Spirit here today during our discussions so they may do thy will. I ask a special blessing on the musicians and the workers who will give a concert and celebration entitled Many Faiths, One Song tomorrow evening at Desert Hills High School. May this bring more cooperation among the good folk of this community to work together for the common good. As we approach what some call Holy Week, may the aspirations for peace and goodwill be ever before us. And again, Divine Ruler, we give you our gratitude, and let us be peacemakers. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll now have a Pledge of Allegiance led by, sorry, I didn't have anybody on here, so Commander Little, would you mind giving us our Pledge of Allegiance?
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're going to start today off with the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt our consent agenda consisting of the following items. A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payments for March 4th, 2026 through March 17th, 2026. B, consideration of commission meeting minutes of March 3rd, 2026, and C, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property, and D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property, and that's my motion.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The regular items for consideration on today's agenda. First, we're going to have a presentation from our own Dr. Paul Hill with the 4-H youth.
They're not here yet. If we could get moved to the end of the meeting, is that possible?
How about maybe not the end of the meeting? How about you just let us know when they show up, and
Okay.
and maybe we can move to amend the agenda to reflect that whenever they show up, because they're kids and they're a little bit late.
All right, I'll
And they were
text you.
probably at school.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we set item 1 aside until the youth show up.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the agenda as motioned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. The agenda is amended. New item 1 is a presentation on employee longevity. We have 2 employees who've been at the county for a long time. Our first is our own Jonathan Little, who just gave us a wonderful Pledge of Allegiance. Nicole Felshaw.
Okay, well, so Jonathan has been with us for 10 years now, and he started back in 2016 in February. And he started with the county as the HR director. And within, I guess in 2022 of October, he was called into active duty for the Navy. And so it was hard to say goodbye, but of course we didn't have a choice, so we let him go for a little while. And he joined us again in December of 2025, so he's gone about 3 years and a couple months. It really gave the commissioners an opportunity to really look at Jonathan's assets, what his talents are, and what he brings to the table. And so we asked him if he would step into a new role that we created, which would be Government of Accountability and Development. Jonathan, in his time with the Navy, did a lot with coaching sessions and training, and we just felt like that was something that we were missing at the county that would really be such a benefit. So the great thing is I've been able to work with them in each one of those capacities very closely, and so I just wanted to just let Jonathan know how much we appreciate him, that we hope that he's enjoying his time here as much as we're enjoying getting to have that training. And he's literally put together an entire leadership playbook for us so far. So we're really just looking forward to great things. And Jonathan, you're welcome to come up and say a couple words if you want to. But anyways, just wanted to thank you for your 10 years with the county.
Oddly enough, this is the first time that I've attended a commission meeting in the new administration building. So the perspective of the last one being in the old chambers and this one here, it's a beautiful space. It's great to be back here at the county. I've loved the support that has been from the commission and from all of the employees that I've been able to reacquaint with after a fairly lengthy period of absence. And I look forward to many more years here at the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We'll give you this in just a second here. Our second one is, where's Josh at? Josh, do you want to come up? We've got David Miller. Sorry, Jonathan, he beats you by just a couple years at 35.
Yeah, so my name is Josh Wadsworth, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to recognize and celebrate Dave Miller. As you just mentioned, he's been with the county for 35 years, and that's a significant accomplishment on any level, I think, of being anywhere. But in that time of service, he has obtained his Certified General Appraiser license, which is the highest license that the Division of Real Estate recognizes and maintains, which is significant in and of itself. Dave has served in multiple leadership positions throughout his time here, and currently serving in our leadership capacities, overseeing building permits and how that kind of moves into our office and how we utilize that for visiting properties throughout the county. I think one of the things that Dave does best, first of all, I mentioned that he also is on our land team, and he oversees and helps with the Greenbelt process, also in valuing land throughout the county. But back to, I think, one of Dave's greatest quality is he's been able to develop and maintain a lot of public trust throughout the community because of his longevity, because of the relationships he's gained and maintained throughout the years. I think a lot of people have known and trusted Dave, and that's been a positive thing, not only for just our office and the assessor's office, but I think for the county as a whole. And so we just want to congratulate him and appreciate all that he's done. And I don't know how much longer he'll be here, but we'll take him for as long as he'll stay. So
I was almost going to say, I mean, did he start working at like 15 or something at the county? Did we violate child labor laws?
We did say that he's been here longer than some of our employees have been alive, but
Well, he started a month before I was baptized, which has been a while now. I will say that, because I'm an old man now, so I will say that Dave is, all the things you just said I can typify in one story. I had just bought my house. It was a January cold day. I didn't know David at all, had never actually met him. I went out to go shoot, and the ground had frozen, and in the time that I was shooting, the ground thawed. And my truck, when I turned back to it, had sunk about 5 inches. And I called a buddy to pull me out. His truck promptly got stuck as well. And he called a buddy, David Miller, in his tractor, which is not a fast machine, but he came, hooked us both up, and it was the most humiliating ride I've ever taken, as it was a daisy chain of white Dodges being pulled by his tractor very slowly through the mud. And I just, it was one of those where you feel not so much like a man. But he didn't know me at all, but it was just the first one is, sure, I'll come over in this freezing cold weather and pull these random guys out that were too dumb to get stuck. And I've liked Dave ever since then. So, and I don't have that truck anymore. Dave, why don't you come up and tell us the number one thing you've learned out of a lifetime of working, your favorite moment of working at the county for 35 years?
You have some of your fellow employees here. Maybe you could give them some words of advice and counsel.
Well, 35 years is a long time to work anywhere, and I don't really have any words of advice that people haven't already heard. But I was thinking earlier today some of the changes in the county, at least in the administration over 35 years.
Like the internet?
Well, not the tools, telephones. And I just roughly went through my head. I think I've worked for, 13 or 14 different commissioners in 35 years, 3 different assessors, 3 different treasurers, 5 different Ryan Sullivans. Clerk auditors, and
There's only one Ryan Sullivan.
there's only one Ryan Sullivan. But there's been a lot of change in the county and the administration and the size of the county, the number of parcels and the work that we've been required to do. And fortunately, I've been here long enough to have been involved in hiring many of the employees that we still have. And I just appreciate the time that I've been here. And I did work really hard Saturday with my wife in the yard, and I thought I might stay working for the county for a few more years. But
Yard work has that incentive.
yeah, it has a lot of incentive,
Yeah.
but thank you.
Well, thank you. The amount of knowledge, 35 years, it's hard to be able to download that to somebody else. So thank you for being here. We'll give you both of these.
Come on up.
Commissioners, it looks, I'm getting the nod by Dr., I think I got a nod. Paul, is that a nod? Yeah. Paul? Why don't we go back to our former item number 1, the presentation from the 4-H youth.
Speech.
Hello Commissioners, thank you so much for having us. My name is Jenna, I'm from Laverkin. I do AWOL, which stands for Adventure Wilderness Outdoor Leadership. I also do the 4-H Region Ambassador Program, and I do Teen Council.
My name is Sebastian. I'm from Washington County, and I've been doing 4-H for I think 3 or 4 years at this point.
Hello, my name's Quinn McEwen. I'm from Washington County, and I do the Teen Council program.
Hello, my name's Ammon Akins. I've been doing 4-H for 4 to 5 years, and I participate in their leadership programs and their camps throughout the year that are just very fun.
Hi, my name is Brentley Shear. This is my 6th year in 4-H. I do the Horse 4-H program, Teen Council, and Horse Bowl. I'm Ella Purdue. I'm from Laverkin. I do Teen Council and Adventure Outdoor Wilderness Leadership.
I am Brooklyn Thompson, and I am from Hurricane, and this is my first year in 4-H.
All right.
So we're here with the Washington County 4-H program to present the 4-H annual report. Youth ages 5 to 18, which is a mix of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, is the largest generation with 72 million kids. What we're seeing in this data is significant levels of loneliness and feelings of failure with lack of commitment and confidence. Utah's youth face mental health challenges with 2024 according to the 2024 Utah Youth Needs Assessment. This is paired with academic challenges, with a third of youth chronically absent, missing 10% or more, plus math and reading scores with the largest decreases in 50 years. This is a two-pronged issue: social emotional well-being and academic. Pair that with how fast the world is changing and the considerable amount of pathways for youth to choose from. 2-year college, 4-year apprenticeship programs, work, military service. No wonder they are so overwhelmed. 4-H has helped me overcome my loneliness and has helped me improve my confidence with getting me out of my comfort zone and helping me talk to other people, do really fun dances and things that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Young people need us now. We need to prepare young people for the skills and abilities to be ready for work and life.
.4-H is uniquely positioned to support our generation and help solve for these issues. 4-H is the only youth program. 4-H is the only youth program that reaches 6 million kids annually, the largest of any youth development program. It has the only proven scientific model for building ready youth with 2 decades of data demonstrating impact. It has connections to 110 universities to build natural partnerships towards college credit, credentialing, and more. And it has a 120-year-old network build to go bigger, further, faster through partnership. Federal, state, and local government, NGOs, and universities.
.4-H always starts with us, the youth, at the center of the work. We are supported by 3,500 educators and 500,000 volunteers based in our communities. This provides a hyperlocal approach to the cause. The 4-H program is delivered through 110 land-grant universities. Professionals from these universities create the curriculum, program model, and evaluation. 4-H works closely with state and local government who provide funding and support. On the national level, we have the strength of the USDA and National 4-H Council providing the framework for the program, storytelling, and fundable opportunities.
4-H reaches youth in every country across Utah, including right here in our community. What makes 4-H special is the variety of opportunities it offers. Youth can participate in animal science, outdoor recreation, leadership, and civic engagement. Family and consumer science, STEM programs, and more. 4-H meets kids where their interests are and helps them grow confidence, responsibility, and real-world skills, no matter their background or interests. 4-H gives youth a place to belong and a chance to lead. And we know that it's not enough to impact youth once they've gotten into high school years. If we really want them to be prepared, rather, there are critical milestones at early childhood and adolescency where we have to engagement, and if we're going to be able to really dive long-term impact.
Utah 4-H does an annual survey that measures the impact of their programming on youth. Their year's report shows that youth who are highly engaged in Utah 4-H are 3 times more likely to show leadership skills and 90% more likely to learn ways to help their community.
Thank you for your time and commitment to 4-H. Without your support, 4-H would not be the vibrant and thriving community that it is here in Washington County. Now, do you guys have any questions?
What's the total group population? How many are in your group?
How many are in our group?
Yeah.
We have 15 who are registered for teen council, but we have over 400 students who are registered for 4-H in Washington.
4-H really is a great program, and I say our extension office does it the best, so.
100%.
So you guys have,
go ahead.
you guys have like a council where you go up to Utah State every year, right?
Yes.
Is that in the summer, spring?
Yes. So we go up to Teen Summit in the summer.
Okay.
We do trainings all year long. These guys do it in the spring.
Okay.
I am impressed that, honestly, it's hard to find 7 teenagers who want to stand up in front of this many people and actually speak and can do it with their heads up and eloquently and loud and prepared. Usually it's a little more and they sit down. So it's working, right? And I can tell you as an employer, for somebody who we run a county of roughly 700 employees. We have a lot of people changing out all the time, and we look for people that can do what you just did today alone. It's a losing skill, unfortunately, or a skill that we're losing from society, I'd rather say. And so, good job, keep it up. Big fan of 4-H and what you're learning and what you're doing. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Can we get a picture with you? All right, the next item on our agenda is item number 3, which is a search and rescue report from our Washington County Sheriff's Office and Lieutenant Croft, standing in for Sergeant Paul today.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. Sergeant Paul is a training and has asked me to fill in and give this report to you today. This report's from January 1st, 2026 to March 16th, 2026. We have 22 SAR callouts reported this so far in this first quarter. Total certified volunteer man hours is 885 and a half. Total certified man hours 121.5. Total man hours this report 1,007. Total SAR incidents 22. Rescued subjects in county residents 23. Out of county, still in Utah residents 13. Out of Utah 15, and international 4. And to highlight just a couple of these are one on January 14th. There was a report of a missing 19-year-old female out in Red Cliffs Campground. She was located after 109 hours of manpower and search. She was located deceased and unfortunately removed and returned to her family. On February 16th, a missing juvenile was reported in Apple Valley. After an extensive search in severe weather, it was raining really hard that night, a juvenile, an at-risk juvenile, I believe he was autistic, was missing. Star 7, Apple Valley Fire, Hilldale Fire, and members of Search and Rescue all went out to search for him. After 6 hours, they located him a few blocks from his residence, unharmed and okay. On February 20th, a subject was found to be dehydrated and severely cold at Hellhole Pass. After 56 man-hours search, they found him. They found there was actually 4 individuals. They found 2 ended up needing to be hoisted by Star 7 back to IC Incident Command and were taken to the hospital by ambulance. The other 2 declined medical transport. Those were just a couple of the 22 so far this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
1,000 man-hours in 2 months. That's 2.5 months. That's a lot. Thank you to all your guys. If you can pass that along as usual.
Please.
Item number 4 on the agenda is consideration of purchase requests. Alfred.
All right, to start us off, I've got for Legacy Park, it's for sound equipment for the fair, and it's going to be for $12,600. Next one for Legacy Park is going to be toilets for the fair for $13,425. Next one is going to be for Legacy Park again for the fair for tents, and it's going to be for $15,535.65. Last one for Legacy Park is going to be for a gutter system repair, or repair for gutter systems, and it's going to be for $15,000. Next one is for the Dixie Center for HVAC units for the ballroom and for the museum for $95,221.80. Next one for the Dixie Center is going to be draped to complete their east exhibit hall on their back line for $18,067. Next one is from the Sheriff's Office for a 2022 Ford Edge for CSS for $26,193, and this will be using grant funds. And the last one is for roads, and it's for fuel for their equipment and vehicles for $39,131.08.
purchased before the big increase. Yeah, that was smart of them. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the purchase request as outlined.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Alfred. Just for everybody's knowledge, all of those items were budgeted, but anything over $10,000 requires going through a commission meeting and being announced publicly, so that's why we do those. Item number 5 is a public hearing to consider changes to Title 10 zoning regulations, Chapter 9, Planned Development Zones, by adding a new zone, which is the Planned Development Multifamily. The Planned Development Multifamily Zone would allow for density of up to 18 dwelling units an acre in an area along I-15 as represented on a zoning map. It would allow for attached or detached residential dwellings, including duplexes, townhouses, patio homes, condominiums, and apartment buildings. Other miscellaneous details and changes to Title 10 are included in this proposal. Victoria Hales from our County Attorney Office and who handles land use law things for us. So, Victoria, we'll let you present on this and then we'll go to the public hearing.
So before the public hearing, I'd like to explain how we got here and where we are at. As you know, from state regulations, not just in this legislative session, but in the past 4 or 5 legislative sessions, we have been tasked with increasing housing affordability and housing units to be built in every area in Washington County and the state. This is a culmination of multiple work meetings, planning commission meetings, and commission meetings regarding adding a zone to our zoning regulations called the Planned Development Multifamily Zone. This is not a specific zone change request. There's no application before you today other than a change to our zoning code. So today we're just looking at changing the zoning code by adding a planned development multifamily zone. And I'm going to remind you of the policy goals that got us here and how we've dealt with those policy goals inside this draft of the multifamily zoning regulation that we've drafted on behalf of the county. Now remember, this is a draft. The Planning Commission recommends this draft, but you're the ultimate deciders on the exact language of the final draft of the multifamily zone. So as you know, our first policy goal is to alleviate the housing shortage and rising cost of housing. We have increased housing costs in Washington County at unaffordable prices. This zoning code amendment would attempt to increase the number of unit counts of houses, decrease the lot size, which reduces the cost of land, which has the unintended effect of driving up each housing unit cost. So the goal stated by not just the county but also the state is to increase home ownership through detached, owner-occupied, small lots, small homes, and this would include patio homes, townhomes, condominiums, attached and detached units. It also would have an opportunity to increase apartments in the county, which would not provide necessarily owner-occupied housing, but it would increase an ability for renters to access the housing market in Washington County. So it meets our moderate income housing goals that we're required to do for the state in our general plan. And though the county does not develop and build housing, it puts codes in place to help with that. How this code does it: our dwelling units an acre maximum in the county right now starts out at 5 dwelling units an acre, which is like a quarter-acre lot, which is standard single-family housing. And you can go up to 7.5 dwelling units an acre if you provide moderate income housing in our PD zone. But our code really right now is at 5 dwelling units an acre. The proposal here is to increase that to 18 dwelling units an acre, which is 2 to 3 times the current code. There also was a discussion to start at 15 dwelling units an acre, but this draft is at 18, the way it's currently drafted, unless you guys change it. However, the next policy goal is to increase density responsibly. We know we are not the Wasatch Front. We know we are not a dense city. and we want to do it responsibly by using responsible code rules. So our height limit, as drafted, closely matches our single-family house height limit. The single-family houses right now in the county are at 35 feet, and the proposal here is to have multifamily housing only be at 40 feet. So there won't be the view or vista blocking issues that some people are concerned about, I know, in our beautiful county. So this would be mostly 3 stories at the most, possibly 4 stories at 40 feet, but it would be hard to get in a 4-story unit at 40 feet. Again, we are not the Wasatch Front. We're not going up to 60 feet or 75 feet like you might in a dense city or along the Wasatch Front. Also, a responsible rule, in addition to the height limit, is we have drafted in a unit count limit at lines 596 about. And that project count limit is between 50 and 300 unit count for each project. Again, we want to intersperse the density, and not to use negative examples or call them out, but I mean, some people have thought that Santaquin is looking like there's too many townhomes all in a group, or a grouping where you just have too much of the same thing all in a row. So our draft says 50 to 300. We have discussed a sweet spot as possibly being a bit lower than that, at a cap of 250 or 220. So we want to intersperse the density, we want to keep the height manageable, and then in addition to that, we've drafted in a proximity limit so that you can't have a multifamily housing project that's approved within a half mile of another multifamily housing project that is asking for approval. So again, there's height limit, project unit count limit, and proximity limits. Right now it's drafted as a half mile. We have discussed also in the past increasing that to 1 mile. So again, our next policy goal is to create a community, not apartment complexes, with this code. And it does that by encouraging homeownership with smaller lots, smaller homes, and individually platted lots so people can own their unit. Even if it's a detached or an attached townhome or condominium, you can own your unit. So that's one of our goals. It's drafted into the code. And the way you create a community is how you orient the units. And so that is drafted into the code under the theories that design trumps density. And we're not talking about design we're telling you whether to build Tuscan or build desert modern. I know, Commissioner Snow, that's a term you hate. So I'm bringing it up. We're not trying to dictate what people build. We're trying to orient it toward a community. And the way you do that is you have building orientation built into the code, eyes on the street. Half of the units or more cannot be garage-centric, or it's called a snout house or a human storage unit style, where people drive into their garage, go upstairs, and never see their community. If you keep eyes on the street, you have a safer community, and you have a community that's oriented toward the community, not toward cars. And in order to get these building orientation that creates the community, we have lessened the setbacks, so you can have a 15-foot setback instead of a 20-foot setback, and 5 feet of that setback. In that shorter setback, you can have 5 feet that would go into the setback as porch. You can have tandem garages. You can have ADUs if the ADUs are oriented with a single-family dwelling unit. You can't have attached dwelling units and an ADU, but you could have a detached patio home, cottage home, detached townhome, and also have an ADU. All those units would count toward your density count. So your unit count still couldn't go over the 300 or 250 or wherever you set that unit count. Now, why have we not put it everywhere in the county? Here is our zoning map that goes with this particular zone, and I'm going to explain to you the policy reasons behind only putting it along I-15 in the corridor from mile marker 16 to mile marker 31. This is where in the county it's feasible to build a multifamily project. It is not feasible to build a multifamily project along SR 18 or SR 59 because there's no ability to connect to sewer, there's no ability to connect to some city water provider, but along this corridor, it is feasible for developers to access water through the water district and sewer through Ash Creek.
Do we address sewer in here? Like, do we say you need to hook up to Ash Creek?
No, but in our zoning regulations, you have to prove that you can hook up to sewer or septic and water. Now, we haven't required those particular providers, but we could. If you tell me to draft that into the code, I have my red pen, and you know I'm good at making changes on the fly.
Well,
Would
given that
just be
area...
redundant? Was that the point? I mean, is it, so you're saying it's pre-existing that we require those things anyway, it's just not in this section of the code, but it is required before a developer can come in and do this?
We don't tell them which service provider to hook into, but you can't get a zone change unless you can hook into a service provider.
Does that answer it?
Well, I mean, what you have is well, you tell me, Victoria, if you don't say you need to hook into the septic system or the sewer system, then you could come up with an advanced sewer system outside of that.
Yeah, you could do.
And I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
Well, if you want to take out the option of doing your own LUD system, we could say that you have to connect to Ash Creek or municipal sewer system and not do underground LUDs.
For me, that makes sense. They're actually already there in the corridor.
Okay, I can add
I don't know how you feel about that.
I would agree with that.
Just let me take a note.
And then, since we have a lot of members of the public here, and you've been kind of explaining what a PUD is, but maybe in a nutshell, just kind of explain the difference between a PUD and a regular zone.
Yeah, I'll do that. So you want them to you want them to hook onto Ash Creek or a municipal sewer system, and same thing with water.
That also avoids the issues that we have in other areas of the county where septic systems are contaminating the underground water.
Yep.
Yes, we can add that to this particular zone.
Now, on the municipal water, the district could fill that in there, so.
Yes. Do you want it to say join the Washington County Water Conservancy District or an equivalent municipal water system?
Yeah, because, well, I think you just have to join the district, right? Because otherwise you're going to be getting your water from the city, and we won't be zoning yet at that point, right? So.
Well, there would have to be a side agreement with some developer in the unincorporated county to hook into a city water system. I don't know whether you're going to get any takers on that. So we can just limit it to Ash Creek or the water district if you want to do that.
Plus, to make it really clear, there are representatives here from incorporated areas that this would not apply to. We don't dictate to cities or towns what they can do.
I should have said that right up front. This only regulates unincorporated areas of Washington County. It does not regulate any zoning inside a municipality. So it does have a impact on people who are proximate, but it's not zoning inside their city.
So the blue bar here along I-15 is how far off center line?
100 feet on either side of the outside of the UDOT right-of-way. So it's 100 feet on both sides of the freeway, on each side of the freeway.
So that's why it's going through municipal boundaries.
Right.
But it's not a municipal zone. It's just that if there happens to be unincorporated county, which there's a couple little pockets in there that look like they're part of a city, but they're actually not. They're unincorporated. They have not been incorporated yet, and so it just grabs anything. But if you're in a city, it doesn't apply.
Exactly.
So does that go to Ventura? Is that the northern
That is where the more industrial part of the county starts, and you'll see some gravel pits right there. So it's
Okay.
right there at those gravel pits.
Is there anything, I know the staff and the planning commission talked about this corridor. I guess today, if we wanted, we could shorten this corridor?
Yes. You could change it however you wanted. And you could change the proximity limit. Right now, it's a half mile between various projects, but you could change that. You could change the unit count. Right now, it's at 50 to 300. You could change that.
Density.
Yeah, you could change anything you want.
Now, I think you or someone else told me that there's really only about 3 or 4 parcels total that could even qualify.
Sarah, can you pull up the next map? So we had our GIS people pull up some of the parcels that might be available. So our parcel size is at least 5 acres, and you can see there aren't that many parcels that are 5 acres. I guess you could buy smaller parcels and combine them, but these are kind of the parcels. And
So there's a couple of those over in Hidden Valley over there?
I'm not good
Silver
with, I'm not good with where I am on the map. You'd have to point to me. And can
Scott, you
show
want to
the
come and
next
help?
map?
That looks like hillsides over there. I don't think hillsides and clay areas.
Yeah, so let's go back one, that one right there. So yeah, some of this property, it is located in like the Silver Valley Estates,
Yes.
Hidden Valley area.
Hidden Valley.
These are just, what these are is privately held vacant properties. There's some of them, you know, for instance, like that triangle right there, I think you would have to access it via BLM land to even get to it because it's
Landlocked.
it's landlocked. These are
You're
just
talking
the
about the
private.
triangle not against the freeway, but the one that's set off a little ways, kind of the
No,
north,
no, the one right next to the freeway.
the one next to the freeway.
Yeah, but these are just as to show an example of the properties that it would impact versus where the corridor is shown. Everyone, there could be hillside issues, there could be access issues, there could be utility issues on any of these, and they wouldn't be able to develop.
Okay.
I think what these maps represent is that it's not, there aren't that many parcels that are eligible for this zone if someone comes in with an application later for a zone change. Everyone who comes in will require a zone change. And no zone changes are before you today, just changing the regulation. So,
Wouldn't it also be fair to say that the purpose of this is because up till now, without this sort of guidance, any private landowner could come in and propose something outside of some perimeters or some guidance that might be offensive to the neighbors and cause some disagreements that we can try to avoid by saying, if you want to develop within these sort of guidelines. And as I've always said, you know, design trumps density. I'm willing to make some of the suggestions that we change the density amount, maybe proximity amount, and the total units. Although my gut feeling is if I lived up there, I wouldn't want somebody just willy-nilly coming in and proposing something. I'd rather that they have to fall within certain limitations that are respectful of the residents.
and that gets back to what a planned development zone is. So a planned development zone isn't just straight zoning. You have to come in with your whole project. You have to go through a concept plan phase where you show us the whole plan. It has to meet all the code requirements. Then you have to come forward with the project plan, which says, this is what I'm going to build. This is how it's going to look. Here's the open space. Here's the landscaped areas. Here are the amenities. Here's the density count. And then you're going to have a development agreement process, a project plan process, all that goes forward together with your zone change. So it's not going to be just straight zoning, where if I had a commercial zone and it was C1, I could build anything on the use list in C1, or anything on the use list in C2, or highway commercial. This is targeted zoning. You get to control how it's designed, how it looks, and how it's developed.
And do you get to control the count?
Yes, you can, because we're going to put those limits in that we've talked about.
So from 50 to 300, I mean, 300 is a high number.
300 is a high number, and you can tweak that. Again, I'm good at making changes on the fly.
But the number could be, that would be negotiated in that planning agreement, in the development agreement, I mean.
Yes, you could. And in your
Like they
zone,
wouldn't be entitled to 300 units just because.
in your zone change, you could say, no, we're only going to let you have 200.
Okay.
Or you can set your cap a bit lower so that no one can ask for 300.
And it depends on how many acres they have,
Right.
It's simple math. If we drop it to 15, which I'm proposing from 18, eventually when we get to that phase with the consensus maybe, but if they have 5 acres at 15, they're never going to get to 300.
Right. If they only have 5 acres. If they had 10 acres, they'd get more.
Right.
And so it goes with, the unit count goes with the acreage count, right?
Yep.
Because it's dwelling units per acre. So the other reason that why it's along I-15 is because this is where people live and have access to jobs and transportation. You have access to a lot of the city centers that have jobs. You can get to Springdale where you can't get affordable housing at all. You can get to, if you have a couple or family members who work in Cedar City, you could get to Cedar City and St. George and Hurricane. Again, it's not as impactful as you might think, just looking at the maps where we put red dots where you could possibly ask for this zone. And then the last policy goal I wanted to mention is water. I probably should have mentioned it first, but smaller lots directly correlate to less per capita water use. Now, it sounds wrong, but it's right. Higher density lowers water use. The units have a smaller impact on water because the land use is smaller. I do have a quote from the Water District on this. A common misunderstanding is that apartment units increase water demand because of the large number of people per acre. That is an infrastructure issue, not a water resource issue. Higher densities always produce lower per capita water use. So those are our 5 policy goals. I think we've met them all with the thumbnail sketch I've given you of the zoning code changes that we're proposing by adding planned development multifamily. I can tweak it however you want on the fly.
I'll just chime in as well on that water use, is that many people understand this, some don't, that depending on your lot and where you are in Washington County, how old your home is, between 60 to 80% of the water you use is outside the home. So if it's an apartment, that's only 20% maybe of what you would have used if that was the exact same number of people, same number of bathrooms on a larger lot where you had landscaping, grass, trees, things like that. That's why apartments tend to use, or higher density, not just apartments, townhomes, anything. Less landscape, less water.
Well, in your open space requirements, still 20% like it is in our other PD zones, and only 25% of that can be landscaped, and a smaller percentage of that can be like not water-wise, so you could have some lawn. But those group amenities serve the whole group, right? Not everybody has their own pool.
Not everybody per house, yeah, or per lot.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I don't know at what point to make suggestions and how you would implement it. Obviously, we're going to hear from the public, but I'd like to say a few things about...
I think that would be under number 6.
Okay, and then a question for you. I know that we're talking about HB 48, which is the WUI, and I know that we've worked on this together, but as I've looked through it, all we need maybe in there is one line that says something about our compliance with state laws relative to our urban interface.
I can add that.
Yeah.
The WUI requirements have been pushed out by a House bill in our last legislative session. We have another year to comply, but that's a good find to add that we will comply with state WUI requirements.
More of an FYI for those who are, and I
wildland urban interface properties have to comply with state law and our own local laws regarding how to protect structures from fires.
Yeah, fire mitigation.
Yes.
And I would suggest that after the public hearing, I come back up and you tell me what you'd like to change relative to how the code's drafted right now and those highlighted points that I gave you.
True.
Okay, thank you very much, Victoria, for the presentation. Any further questions for Victoria?
I can answer questions that come up too from the public. Thank you.
All right, in just a second, we'll go into a public hearing. Just a couple of, for anybody who would want to speak, I'm going to guess that there's at least one today. We would appreciate, just out of consideration for your neighbors, if something's already been said. We've received phone calls and emails and text messages and other things as well. So if something's already been said, maybe don't come just to repeat it again. We do have a 2-minute timer that Nicole Felshaw is going to set up here. We'll take, if we can just be respectful on the time for 2 minutes so that everybody who wants to speak can get a chance. And I'll take a moment of chairman's privilege for just a second. That we hear a lot in government on NIMBYism, not in my backyard, right? That everybody understands that attainable housing is an issue in Washington County. It's an issue across the western United States. And they think it's really good on your street, but not on mine. Right? It just wouldn't belong on mine, Commissioner Almquist.
I'll take it. Okay.
It belongs better on yours, though. And I can just say that, at least for me, that argument holds very little sway, because it has to go somewhere, right? And it has been proven across the country over and over again that when it's always stuck somewhere else, far away, that nobody can see, so I can't see it, which is really the only visual I care about, that's when we get the issues that everybody's trying to avoid. Right? That's when we get the ghettos. That's when we get high crime areas, is when it's all stuck by itself, far separated from any other kind of a community. So, at least for me, I'm just giving you context as you come to make comments, that would, just saying, hey, we get it, but please not here, that's not much of an argument. That's just kind of a please. So with that, I would take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we move into a public hearing, open public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion to open a public hearing and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We're now in public hearing. Anybody who, let me see by a show of hands, who would like to speak to that? We got 1, 2, 3. Oh, there we go. Okay, a little higher for me, just so I can kind of gauge on 11. All right. Mayor, you stood first, so we'll go here. And then we'll come here, and then Mayor again. After that, I don't know, y'all kind of came up at one time, so we'll...
Also, if you could just state your name for the record.
Dan Catlin, Mayor of Tocqueville City. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. The concerns I have on this is 18 ERUs per acre far exceeds what we allow by general plan. It is not in our transportation plan. To get to this area, you're either going to come off through Tocqueville or come off through Leeds, both of which are experiencing high growth right now with a lot of building already. We're all focused on trying to get affordable housing. We're focusing on what areas we would like that and which would have the least impact on what we've already got going in. This would be significant with us having a reservoir go in, with the new development going in. We already have PDOs. We understand the PDOs and MPDOs. 18 is extremely high. So I would like to have a little input if you guys would come and speak to the cities to see what we feel we could handle on our side, because whatever infrastructure comes in is coming through either Leeds or Tocqueville also. So it's going to take our staff to support that as well. So whatever you do in this area is going to have a dramatic impact on both cities. Thank you.
Mayor, what's your highest density in your city now?
We 10 or 12, we? Yeah. Really 10 or 12 maximum.
Okay. Yeah. 10 or 12. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You.
Sir. And maybe if the next one wants to just come to the front row right here, so we can just, so Mayor after you, and then after that, we'll just, if you want to fill up the front row for those who wanted to speak, we can rifle through a little quicker. Go ahead, sir.
Wayne Olson, I live in Tocqueville. I spent the last couple days out on your corridor exactly 100 feet back from your right-of-way that she proposes building starts, and I erected a 35 to 40 foot tower. And now I'm talking the north side. So you've got Yancey's Flat, the Red Cliffs, you got a lot of scenic corridor there. But now when you put 35 feet up, because the wind blew my 5 feet off, so I stuck with 35, you can't see nothing but the tip of Pine Valley. Because every time I put the tower up, I walked back to the shoulder, set up my truck, and looked over that. So you start erecting any kind of buildings that high close to the freeway, you've lost all the view. Now you take the southern side, it's a downhill slope mostly. So anything you erect there, you don't see nothing. So I am concerned about that natural beauty that we all enjoy to go look at will go away with this tight corridor up there. And I wish I could have left the tower so you all could have went and seen them, but you got to fascinate looking over that 35 foot. You see nothing but this little bit of Pine Valley. So you lose all that value. And going down into Red Cliffs and all that, this is a tourist area, and you're taking that away by putting that too close to the freeway. So I'd appreciate some consideration on that maybe. And if there's a rebuttal, I'd like to maybe re-erect them and take them back out again if they want to see it. Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Wayne Peterson, the mayor of Leeds. We had a town council meeting last Wednesday, and the comments that I have reflect the discussion that was held there. We in Leeds are supportive of affordable housing being developed in the county. We're particularly supportive because it's needed for our economy. It is important, though, to not destroy the visual appeal of I-15, which serves as a gateway to the natural beauty of our Greater Zion area to tourists who visit here in ever-increasing numbers, and is what drew many of us to live here in the county. We believe it's very important to develop to fit the natural terrain. If you go along the route, you will see there's a lot of hillsides. The towns and the cities have hillside ordinances. I believe the county does as well. But it is fairly noticeable when development happens that hills get a little bit to 29% pretty quickly, and they get flattened along the way. I think it's very important to develop into the space. We support the concept of the proximity rule that was mentioned, spacing between the planned unit development multifamily zones. One thing, though, that was not mentioned when it was described is that only applies if it is 100 units or larger. I would suggest that it should apply to every planned unit development in the multifamily zone. Roman numerals have been around for centuries, and it's very easy to just put a lot of 99 units right next to each other because they don't violate the 100-unit rule. We believe it should apply to any size development. We also think that proximity rule should apply to the boundary of an existing municipality. It makes sense to space things out. Municipalities are likely to grow over time. As they annex inland, they will ultimately come to these units, but you can transition it much better than to let it be built right on the exact border that exists today. We are very mindful of WUI up in our area of the county. And that is something that I believe it's important not to just have that brief mention, but rather to recognize human-caused fire is a big problem.
Okay, thank you. There's other hands. Yeah, sir, please.
Thank you, Alan Cohn. So just real quick, I want just touching on where a lot of this has been intended to build, very close to like a lot of the fire lines, having had to evacuate Leeds twice already in the past 8 years we've lived there. Is that necessarily a smart decision to build right up to those lines? Additionally, I think the council in making this ordinance or zoning should be mindful of how this is handled by people who want to buy these as second homes or something, you know, because now you're not driving values down. I look at Washington Fields, which is a giant vacation community, so people are not getting cheap housing there. If you allow the same thing here, allow people to have it as a second home or rent it out, you know, secondarily, you're going to lose that value from it. So you really need to take that into consideration. These companies will come in and just buy up the units and there you go, no more affordable housing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Susan Savage from Leeds. Some of my comments have been made. Alan Howard wanted me to mention him. He wasn't able to come, and we weren't sure if we should have been notified because we both have considerable private lands in the county, and we looked at Utah Code Title 17, Chapter 27A and Section 205, and wanted some understanding of that. We certainly need affordable housing. My position is that every community should do its own part, so that people who, St. George has essential workers here, and they should have the responsibility to make sure they're taken care of, as should Leeds, as should Ivans. And so shame on us if we don't take care of our own essential workers. And I think there are ideas. We have people in our community who have ideas about how to make that happen. I think the I-15 corridor is a problem, and if every community helps, then it's not all dumped into the Leeds and Tokerville area. A couple of challenges with the I-15 corridor. One, of course, is the scenic position, and as homes are built along I-15, it's very noisy. My home is right on the edge of I-15 because the freeway took much of our farmland, and it's very loud. And so maybe people are going to want sound walls, and there goes your scenery again. It's an area where you don't have to take a side road or stand in a line to see the scenery. You can hardly turn your head fast enough as you drive from 16 to 31. You might be interested, my nephew and his wife were just in Tampa for a week, and everybody there knew two things about Utah: its beauty and Charlie Kirk. So we have some work to do on our image, and probably won't be improved by choking our corridor. The hillside ordinance, so you're not going out as far as we thought you might. Shall I finish my sentence?
Finish the sentence, for sure.
Okay. St. George is always trying to say restore the Black Hill. But when those hills are taken out, they won't be restorable, and some have already been taken out, and the hillside ordinances didn't stand in their way. I also wanted to mention wind. That's the county's wind tunnel. So the Sapp brothers have experienced damage to their facilities out there from high winds, and those winds coming from the north, we have two large developments that have petitioned for disconnect, so they'll be in the county.
Okay.
And one of those is the uranium area. And so everything that comes from there blows into the rest of the county in the summer. The winds from the south spread the wildfire and throw
thank
those
you.
sparks. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? But Commissioner Iverson says it never blows on the east side of the county.
Rarely, only once in a while.
That it wasn't named Hurricane for a reason, but...
I've lived in Leeds.
Sorry, your name?
Oh, Don Fossen, I'm sorry. Lived in Leeds for 55 years and loved this county, and have had an opportunity to be able to serve in many different positions during that time. We raised our family out there. We moved here when there was one stoplight in St. George. We used to take the kids down to show them what technology was. And I'd just like to reiterate that issue with the wind. And I have been on the fire department up there. I was up for 32 years and fought many fires up that corridor. And that wind it can be horrific. If you plant homes up in that area, you've got that to deal with. In fact, the old saying is that the wind comes down off the Black Ridge, turns the corner, goes down, it slows down, and during the winter we heat it up, and then it goes to hurricane. So I think that you need to really take that in consideration. One of the biggest...
I think that's a true statement, actually.
Yeah, it is.
It's cold over there.
Yeah. So one of the other things was the idea of transportation. One of the reasons that that area has stayed small, not just because of water and sewer, but also because of distance. And people, having to drive either to Cedar or St. George, you're not close to either one, in a sense. And with the price of gasoline going up, and now we're talking about affordable housing, these are people that are struggling anyway. and we certainly want them here. We want affordable housing, absolutely need it. But I think that needs to be taken into consideration. The idea of public transportation out there needs to be thought about too. We do have a new subdivision going in out there. It's 700 or 800 homes, something like that, with a couple more that are being looked at, and we're not opposed to that, but that's also going to have impact on that area. I just hope that you'll take a close look at this, see if you can mitigate the kinds of challenges that are going to be faced in that area.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Don.
Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Taylor, and I moved to Leeds 30 years ago with my family, and moved out shortly after 18, and have always wanted to be back in Leeds, not been able to afford it. And so I think we've lived in a townhome here in St. George, and just recently moved back to Leeds renting by some miracle that we've been able to be back there. But affordable housing and a townhome would be amazing for my family, because my experiences growing up, I was able to run in the hills and experience nature, and that's what drives me. And so I wanted my kids to have the same opportunity, and to be able to afford a home or something there near Leeds would be greatly appreciated. So that's my stance, and thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, it's an honor to speak to you, men, gentlemen, and women. My name is Jeff Allen. I'm on the Town Council in Leeds, and I'd just like to make a couple of comments. I think transitions are important, and we've got Leeds has a very small section of incorporated area. So if we run a non-transition thing right up against that, it could be detrimental in so many ways to the overall value of the community. Now, I agree 100% with you about not my backyard. That's ridiculous. But I also believe that the affordable housing should be distributed in small packets, and I think that's to our benefit. If we're not careful, this plan will not distribute it. It will allow large chunks to go into areas. A couple of thoughts that I wanted to run by you, and hopefully these will help in the decisions that you guys are making. One is, I'm an engineer by background. Subjectivity is a tough thing to live with. Objectivity is much better. The more objective we can make this thing, in other words, talking about housing heights or building heights, be very, very specific in what can happen. If we've got towns that already have building height constraints, and we put a higher constraint in the county alongside of it, it could create a little bit of a discontinuity there. I think that's just an example of how it would be beneficial if the zoning tailored into the county, into the cities around it. Maybe adding a zone that's kind of halfway in between that builds you into the existing zones of the city, so that we don't end up with this transition that's abrupt. Have we thought about other things? If we're going to put some affordable housing in here, I think we need to be thinking about commercial areas. Obviously, density of housing like we're talking about is going to require substantial commercial, and if we don't think about that up front, what's going to happen is it's going to not be put in, and we depend on those commercial areas. The value of the property becomes higher when they can get to services and commodities and things like that. So I'd like to see that added in. Is that my 2 minutes?
It is.
I'm sorry. Can I give one last point?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
The last point is that in addition to light commercial, I think recreation areas and services like that need to be considered in here. I don't think there's a lot of discussion about that. But I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with you guys, and I hope it's helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Martha Ham. I live in Silver Reef. First of all, I'd like to thank Community Development for their hard work. I am definitely a proponent of affordable housing. And I'm very sensitive to your thoughts, Commissioner Snow, about not in my backyard. However, in my backyard, what I would like is a smaller development than 50 units. That would be, I think, pretty overwhelming to the vicinity of town of Leeds, and I really think that these kind of developments, and the research bears that out, do better when they are smaller and interspersed. We've already talked about that a great deal. It's hard to intersperse 50 units in among other types of housing. So I encourage you to look at less units, and I also think that that allows some of our well-meaning developers here who are smaller, who might want to do this kind of development, but it is beyond them to do 50 or 300. Last thing, I raised my child in Leeds. I've lived there for over 30. He went to high school in Mesquite. That's our joke. He went to Desert Hills. There's a lot to address around proximity to amenities and so on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Ron?
I'm Ron Kundig. I live in Silver Reef. Thank you for letting me make a few comments. This is aimed at multi-families, and it has to be family-friendly to accomplish this. And what we see in many areas, that the density is so strong that it ends up being a place for adults or for couples, but families don't want that. So we have to make sure that we have enough space. We don't want the kids playing in the parking lot, and I've seen that, where they build so much density. The other thing is that families need to integrate into communities. We just can't have kids or families living isolated. They have to be close to their schools. They have to be close to their friends. They have to have a community. And we see these rental homes, whatever you want to call them, vacation homes, they're almost ghost towns in some of our communities. And nobody wants to live by it because there's no community for them. So I would hope in your planning that you would try to make things small enough that families would be attracted to it and want to be integrated into those communities and want to stay, because we don't want a ghost town in 20 years, and we don't want a situation that is not helpful for us. And so I'd ask you to consider that, family friendliness, the importance of that in your plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
I think she beat you here. You've jumped up like 3 times, and I feel bad for your knees. I just want to... I got you there. I got you. You're next, sir.
My name is Rochelle Gardner, and I just want to take a moment to thank you very much for slowing down the process and giving us a second opportunity to come in and express some of our thoughts. And I also have written you each a letter, and I appreciate that you have addressed. I've heard several things being addressed today that I was concerned about, and I appreciate that. Slowing it down helps us focus on what matters most. And a couple things that I am wondering is, will we require traffic studies, environmental studies, and projected costs? I have a feeling we will, of the developers that come in and develop for these projects. And I also second the local developers making the projects smaller for local developers. I feel that a tendency for large developers to come in, make their money and run, and then when there's problems, it's too late. Mixed income, not just only affordable housing, make some housing for other people, for mixed family, for everything. It's been shown across the country there are developments that have done this, if we look historically, that have ended up failed projects because they have not mixed in the income, and they're either vacant or you don't want to drive through them at night. You're scared to death. Thank you for listening to us. I appreciate your time and all that you've put into it.
Thank you for the letter. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Washington County Commission, for this opportunity. My name is Patrick Collins, and I originally came from Phoenix, Arizona. I lived in Maryvale. I grew up in Maryvale. which is the Levittown of the West. My parents bought their home in 1952 for $7,000, 1,000 square foot block home. We had 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a carport with a storage room. We had a backyard and a front yard, and it was like an eighth of an acre, but we had a front yard and a backyard. We could play football. It was affordable housing. It was a great place to grow up. But what made it possible was the geography, or the geology, the lack of it. Essentially, they took cotton fields. John F. Long took cotton fields. It was just clay, and he built thousands of cookie-cutter homes and made it possible for families to exist. However, I have a really difficult time wrapping my head around the idea of affordable housing where I live now, because I'm really questioning how affordable will it actually be. And the part of the problem is, and I'm not a geologist, but where I live now, we have boulders the size of Volkswagens, and that only drives up the cost. I live within a mile of the I-15 freeway. I can hear the freeway noise at night, but the big problem is the excavation, and that area is Chinle Formation, Moenkopi, maybe not so bad, but Chinle Formation with the Shinrup member of the Chinle Formation, those rocks that we see tilted up, I would think that would be very expensive to excavate, and so I'm not sure you can do it for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Caitlin Cober, Leeds, Utah. I'm going to try really hard not to repeat what anybody else said. I think this is a great start. I think we have an opportunity here to really do it right in Washington County. And by that I mean create truly affordable housing that has a successful outcome. I think the density and all the issues that have been brought up pale in comparison to the one factor that creates the most success for affordable housing developments, and that is to disperse them throughout communities, throughout a county, so that people are welcomed in and mixed into a community versus placed in a swath along the freeway. I think you have to start somewhere. My request would be to consider starting a little smaller. We share an excellent planner between the county and Leeds, and it is a big ask because the idea of infilling and actually putting affordable units within communities requires regional planning but local implementation, which is very, very hard. It's hard for communities to even communicate sometimes within the county. But I believe that the success of this is so imperative that starting a little smaller, scaling this from perhaps Leeds South, allowing us to be a try so that we can continue to get it right before we put a 15-mile swath might be a better option. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Amberly Judy, and I just want to say I was born and raised in Hurricane, loved it, I loved my childhood, and my dad's a builder, and I now work for a developer in the area, so I feel like I can see things. I appreciate all the thoughts today. I can understand a lot of the concerns. I really appreciate the way Victoria has put into this ordinance things that I do think protect our county. It's not a given that somebody's going to get this. I feel like we do have a limited area, that there's not that many properties from what I'm seeing that can even apply for this, and even if they apply, there's so many ways you guys can restrict them, so I appreciate that there's still a lot of ways for people to come to you and make sure that what they're building is the right project for that piece of land. I really appreciate the things Victoria's put into it that help with community, because I have seen a lot of projects that don't have that. I have a daughter who just bought a townhouse, or actually it's not a townhouse, it's detached, but it's very small, more of a patio home, and nobody's ever outside. So I completely appreciate that you guys are trying to create community in areas with the affordable housing. I know it's hard. I know it's so hard, especially in our county, because land is super expensive and housing is so expensive that when we say affordable, it's kind of a word that none of us really believe, because nothing feels affordable. But I appreciate everybody that's worked on this. I think we all want the best and for the county and for the area. So thank you so much for your work on it.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Last call? Maximum is 10. Thank you. All right, with that, Commissioners, I would take a motion to...
Looks like
Oh, sorry. You snuck up. You also didn't raise your hand earlier, so,
Sorry,
you know.
I was a little shy. Jared Westhoff, longtime resident of Leeds, recently moved to St. George. I really appreciate the county's work on what I see going on with ordinances over the last few years, probably the last 5 to 8. Very conscientious work to make sure there's a really good framework that pushes quality and also tries to balance affordable. And I do think affordable is an interesting term anymore in our county, because patio homes, if we can get them around 400 to 450,000, that's now considered affordable. And I just don't understand how our kids are supposed to make it and get started in life. So it's a balancing act. I love my place in Leeds. We kept an acre lot up there, and so that we've got a place to retire if we want to go back to Leeds, because we love that agricultural environment, and we want that preserved. And I think an ordinance where there's different uses for, say, my kids, so they have a place to live, like, I don't want them in my house forever. Like, I want them to be able to move out. And I really like this process. You guys have an ordinance that we could apply for on our land south of Leeds, and it's a good ordinance, but this has a lot more quality and community built into it. And so I like that we've paused, and the county's been through this diligent process of writing a very conscientious ordinance that has front porches that stick out instead of garage dominated and other things. So the process has been very thorough, and it's been really interesting to watch and participate in and be part of. And I think this ordinance is really hitting it really well. As far as units per acre, we obviously are hoping that on one piece of this we could apply for 18. We don't no intention of applying elsewhere for that, but we understand whatever you guys need to make a decision on. We support and appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Now, last call.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we close our public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Next, do we just take this in the next item? Is that you want to address these, Victoria? I've got a bunch of notes off of these comments that I'd like to address while people are here, actually, so that we can maybe answer some questions. Let's go with yours first.
Mine first?
Yeah, so next item is, item number 6 is consideration of ordinance 2026-1308-0, an ordinance amending the Washington County Code Title 10 zoning regulations by adding section 10-9-8, the planned development multifamily zone, and making other miscellaneous changes to Title 10, Chapter 9. So let's address some of these questions in this agenda item here.
Right, so I want to address some of the comments and reiterate some of the policy considerations we talked about earlier. So one of the comments is interspersing the density. This code is unlike any code I've seen in any of the municipalities, where we do have a proximity limiter and a size of unit limiter. We can talk about that more. We can talk about whether you want to increase the proximity limiter, but we've made great effort to intersperse the density so that you don't have a high concentration of, say you got a developer who wanted to just do rental apartments. You have controls and levers here, so you're not going to get a bunch of those projects, right? And you could decrease that top unit count off of the 300. That, let's see, that's found at lines 596. And the project proximity, you could increase that from half a mile to something larger. One of the commenters was correct that the proximity limiter at lines 518 only applies to 100 units or more. You could take off that 100 unit amount and just have it apply to all of the multifamily. So that proximity limiter would go down to 50. It would apply to all of them.
I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but that would be my recommendation, is that it just apply to the zone, not the housing count, unit count.
And you agree? I agree as well. Let's make that change.
And then the proximity limiter is at a half mile. Do you have any comments on whether you'd like to increase that or leave it at a half mile? Again, everything's going to be a zone change. Everything's going to be a legislative decision. So you don't have to approve a project if you don't want, but...
So Victoria, I have a question. As we look at this corridor, and I'm sensitive to what Wayne said about the north side, no, the northwest side. It's the west side. You know, and then as we go up that corridor, there's a lot of public land. You're basically butting into either Tocqueville or Leeds, either their actual boundaries or their annexation planned boundaries. Could we just draw the entire west side back and just make it on the east side?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. You can go back to the first map. You could change the map that you find in your packet it's at page 23 of your packet, but it would be about lines 516. You could draw that map however you want. I will say...
Because I did appreciate the one lady that said, I wish I could have remembered her name. She made a great point about, you know, let's maybe try something, and then, in other words, not... She talked about bringing it to the edge of Leeds.
I will say, just judging from the other two maps that follow this, I'm not as concerned as some of the comments about how many projects you'd get in this corridor. There just are not that many properties that are eligible.
Properties that would even apply.
Right.
Well, I don't know how the other commissioners feel.
I think I counted 5. Is that right? Is that about right, Scott? Do you know?
There's more. The
one was a hillside issue.
But Wayne made a good point
big
about...
enough parcels, though, that could actually qualify for this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm about 5 or 6. Is that about right, Scott? I'm getting a head nod. Come on up, Scott.
Go to the second 2 pages. Yeah. If you blew that up, there'd be more than 5. It'd probably be more
but
like
some of those
1, 2,
are so
3,
small
4,
you
5,
wouldn't be
6,
getting
7, 8, 9,
and some
10.
of those areas that you're seeing in red, such as that triangle I talked about previously.
It's not developable.
Hillside.
Yeah, you have the hillside, and that's 3 parcels right there. And so some of these are parcels that are privately owned, they're clumped together. It may not be just one parcel, and so they would have to combine the parcels for a project.
Yeah, I was just going, Victoria, off of the number, the large enough as you could actually do this, that isn't a hillside, that would actually be a developable piece of land. I counted like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And Scott's giving me the heads up. So it's not 50.
Right.
We're not going to have an entire corridor of Santaquin.
This is a large swath, but a small possibility of a project. And talking about that, there is all of the comments were great. We appreciate all that. We have dealt with a lot of them inside the ordinance. If you are drilling down on all the specific requirements, for instance, commercial areas are allowed in the PD multifamily. They're in the use chart. They have to be C1 uses, so they have to be community or neighborhood oriented. Also, there are required amenities, so these are family-friendly projects. There are required open space, and we make great effort to include that in the multifamily zone. Also, in addition, we have a lot more proposals and language in here that make it community-oriented. Jared mentioned some of them, where half the units or more have to be community-facing, they can't be garage-centric. These are all things that put eyes on the street, they make the community safer. There also is requirements to have height tapering with any neighborhood surrounding developments at lines 566 and 567, so there's some height tapering requirements there. We've tried to address all the things that have been brought up. One thing is the smaller project idea. We have learned from planning and zoning over many years that it's impossible to make a development work where you have a single owner or property owners association, and these are all going to be one owner or property association owner conglomerates, because they will have amenities. You can't make that work with less than 50 units. In fact, the sweet spot probably would be 80 units or more, not 50, but we dropped it down to 50 because we want smaller projects, and we do want those smaller projects interspersed with single-family neighborhoods in the same community or adjacent communities. The roadway impacts, we've also tried to address that. I know that Tokerville and Leeds have concerns about that, but we're only allowing projects within a mile of the freeway, and you have to enhance your transportation if you're a developer to develop arterial and collector roads to go to your own project. So I think it will have an impact on Tokerville and Leeds and their roads, but the developer has to deal with getting us an arterial or collector road that matches their development. So I think we've addressed that somewhat in the code. And let's see if I missed anything. Noticing. So someone brought up noticing and requests that they wanted a radius notice like you would have in a zone change. So there are different types of notices in the code. We've complied with state law, we've complied with our own code regarding notices. When you're doing a zoning ordinance amendment, you have to provide a public hearing, one, with 10 days notice. We've done that, we're here today. We also had a public hearing at the Planning Commission level. We also had a publicly noticed work meeting. So we've now had a 3-meeting schedule for this zoning ordinance amendment that doesn't require any radius notice. So if you found it, next time, if you had a zone change before you, then people specifically within a radius of that project would get their own notice in the mail based on that radius. And of course, we didn't have to do that here because you'd have to send a notice to everyone in the county. This affects every unincorporated person in the county because we're changing the whole code in the county. So we have complied with the notice requirements. We are trying to encourage individually platted small detached unit lots like state law requires. That doesn't mean that's all you're going to get with these projects. You're going to get a variety. Traffic studies are required in a PD if you have a certain unit count. And I think that encouraging the individually platted lots and small lots does increase affordability. Right now, it's impossible to have a lot small enough where somebody would build one of those 1,000-square-foot homes that a lot of us grew up in or that our parents started out in. It's impossible to build that now because our lot size is 5 dwelling units an acre, which is about 1/4 of an acre for one house. It's not very dense at all. Another issue is the 300 unit count. I know people are concerned about that, and we can talk about that, and I can give you, I did a little research today on projects in my city that I live in. Good projects. Cities are much more dense than the county, and I want to assure everyone that no one is seeking the density in these county projects that they would be seeking inside a city. I'm sure you saw a bunch of apartments go up in Washington City, my city, my home city. There is a project by a public park at Telegraph and Washington Parkway on, let's see, that would be on the south side of Telegraph. And there are a lot of dense apartments right there. That's called Red Rock at Sienna Hills and Trailhead Apartments. I was able to do a unit count on that. It appears that there are 369 units on the south side of Telegraph with those two projects. And that is inside a city. We're not seeking that kind of density here. That's just one example so you could visualize if you've driven past that as many times as I have. That's a lot of density in a small area. Maybe 300's too many, but this is higher than that. That's 369 on the south side of Telegraph. There are a lot more apartments in Washington City in that proximate area. So we aren't trying to compare what we're doing in the county to what cities are doing. You also have a lot of higher density housing over by the Maverick on the backside of Four Master Ridge in St. George City. A lot taller projects and a lot more density. We are going for something that is more compatible with the county. Shorter, less dense, smaller projects, not in close proximity to each other. So you do get families interspersed at these different price points of housing. So, okay, I've talked.
What about the height? You know, we're going from 35 to 40.
I'm very confused by people's concern about the height. I can build a house anywhere that's 35 feet high, and if it's a single-family home, no one's concerned about that. This is not much higher than most people's big houses, and we have a lot of big houses out in these unincorporated areas of the county. A lot of three-story houses. 40 is 5 feet higher than that. It's not very high. Okay. If you want to bump it down to 35, you'd still get three-story apartments possibly, but that's compatible with all of the construction in our area. This is not Wasatch Front density where they're doing what's called 5/1s or 4/1s, where you build the bottom floor in concrete and then you can go 4 or 5 stories above that up to 70 feet or whatever that you see all along the Wasatch Front. This is not that high.
So you're saying with 35 feet we could still get three stories?
Yeah, you could, but 40 isn't much
That
different.
much more. So the roof, so you're saying if you're sitting there in a PUD, we have addressed design to a point that we could make that roof look better? Mm-hmm. What about, Commissioners, what's your thoughts on just pulling back on the west side of the freeway? And
I would encourage that, because as I look at the map, I'm with the gentleman who said, the obstruction of Pine Valley, although you drive another, 200 yards and now you see it again. I don't think, though, that it would hurt to eliminate that upper side, the northwest side at all. I think we could.
And I don't think there's that many pieces of property on that side that even would apply. So, I don't know.
I'm in favor of that, but while we talk about that one, can we also talk about height? Because on the overall, are you talking about the peak of any roof at 40 or the measurement that St. George used to do which goes to the middle of the peak?
Scott, don't we do the middle of the peak? Yes. Which is typical. So if you have a steep pitch, you're going to the middle of that for your height. If you have a flatter pitch, you're going to the middle of that for your height.
I would go to 35 then, because that's still the middle of the peak.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, and not the peak. The reason why homes that you see along a corridor that are 35 feet, because it's a home. It's not a whole long stretch of buildings.
It's not a lot of...
And therefore, it bothers the view for a minute or two, and plus it's not necessarily, not even a minute. I mean, it blocks for a second. But it's when you get a whole bunch of it in a row, then it starts to be blocking.
Or if you get 8 buildings, like in a big project, that would be a lot of height.
Well, and
because
you know you're coming from a person who hates billboards. That was Satan's gift to the earth.
Well, so they only get a monument sign for their multifamily. I'm just telling you the signage.
I'm saying if there's anything obscuring that I hate, the worse it's...
Yeah. Yes.
That's right. Okay, so I'm just, first of all, Victoria, I took a note on every single person. I think you covered basically everybody's comment, so that just sped things up a little bit because I don't need to address all of these. The
35?
Yeah, so do we want to do the 35? You agreed with that, and you said 35? Yeah. So you'll make that change, Victoria. You said you wanted to pull back off the west or north side, whatever.
Yeah, so basically...
Northwest side, and you said yes on that.
I'm going to hand you the map, and you're going to put red X's through where you want to
I think we're just going to make one big red line on that left side of the map if you're facing north.
Well, northwest, which is, so this would be the southwest, this would be the northwest.
Yes.
Well, no, north
on the Pine Valley side.
Pine Valley side, so from there...
All the way up?
To there, right? Is that
That's kind of what I'm...
Is that what you're saying?
All the way up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When you said north, I thought you meant here.
No, sorry. North side of I-15 or west side, whatever, depending how your compass works.
Pine Valley side of I-15.
The Pine Valley side of I-15.
So the map, go back to the first one for me, Sarah. I'm sorry, I'm making everybody work. That whole northwest side would be eliminated from the map.
That's what we're saying.
Okay, and then can we talk about the project size, 50 to 300?
As I read it, that'd be really hard to fit that many in, so why even suggest it? I'd be willing to go, first of all, I'd be willing to go to 12 dwelling units per acre, and then that's going to automatically limit the 300 down to maybe 150 at the most.
Anyway, we're at 18 right now. You had said 15 a minute ago. Now we're going...
I like 12. What the mayor said about his 10, and 12 seems to be a little more of my thoughts.
I don't... Well, what do you think?
I'm here to do what you guys want. So.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I mean, even 15 by the size of some of the acreage would be hard to achieve.
It would be, but if you can, so and I don't need to repeat myself because I've done it many times, but of the 6 things that we can do to try and affect attainable housing, density is the biggest one that we can actually do something with.
Yeah.
We can affect a little bit on impact fees, but there are impacts. We can't really not have impact fees. And other than that, we can't affect the cost of land, we can't affect the cost of materials, we can't affect the cost of labor, and we can't affect the interest rates. Everything else is outside our control. So the one thing we can do is density. I'm okay at the 15.
What if we settled on 15? That's lower than the 18 that we have originally.
I'm okay at 15.
Yeah, and I really am too, especially, I mean, I would love 12, but 15 does fit with what Commissioner Snow has said. It also might work if the creativity of the developer allows for a upper and lower unit. You see what I'm saying? If they're separate owners. Yeah, no, top, bottom and top. See what I'm saying?
Are you talking about unit count now, where you did 50 to 300 and you might want to change that because your density's lower and you don't want a 300 unit project?
I'm good with 15. I'll explain later what I mean, because it sounds like, I'm describing an apartment. But if you have a single family, if you have one building and it's one story, would you allow us a lower unit? The reason I know is because I lived in one.
Yes,
so
yes,
we owned the bottom and we had the light.
We haven't
lived
even
in a potato house.
Wouldn't that, by
you haven't even talked about. Yeah, we have.
One in the ground.
Yeah, so it'd be.
We have in the code accessory dwelling units. We haven't really brought that up.
Yeah.
So if you have a detached unit this would only apply to detached housing, so like a patio home or a smaller home. You also could have an accessory dwelling unit that's 1,000 square feet or less, and it has to have its own parking space, so they'd have to give one more parking space. And what are the other requirements we put in for the accessory dwelling unit? It has to be owner-occupied if you want to long-term rent it, no short-term rentals. And
Because that was brought up. Somebody
Yeah.
mentioned that.
yeah,
So I'm happy with 15 based upon that discussion, that we have some allowance for them to say,
Yeah.
this is a above ground, one story or 1.5, and the lower unit is separate ownership.
well, you can't have separate ownership.
Well, I mean the ADU.
You can have a renter
Yeah.
under that scenario. You could have an attached or detached accessory dwelling unit in some
Okay,
circumstances, and that's at lines 533
Okay,
through 544.
we're going to go with 15.
Okay, 15, and then project size, 50 to 300. Do you want to change that?
Well, to your point, I think everybody's fear is that very project that you described.
Well,
There are
because you don't want it to look like city density. We're not
And I
complaining
think we
about a
can, we're going to be
particular-
able to mitigate that a couple ways. One is the PUD wouldn't allow just pure density like that, right? It's going to have to be interspersed.
Right.
The proximity limits would apply.
limit it.
And the number of acres, and we only get 15. You got 5 acres, that's,
Right.
Yeah,
You're just not
at
even-
the 315, you'd have to have 20 acres.
Right. Or you can go down to a smaller project size of
Well,
250
you'd
or
mentioned
whatever.
220. I think that's still a lot of
250
house,
to-
it's a lot of doors.
250 to 220 would be maybe a better county sweet
Yeah.
spot, but that's up to you.
200, make it easy.
200?
Make it easy.
200's fine.
all right.
200, and then the proximity limit is at a half mile. Do you want to make that larger?
I'm okay at a half mile.
Yeah, because we've kind of limited,
Yeah.
taken off some space there, so there's only 1 or 2
Okay.
units or pieces of property.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I can make all those changes on the fly. I also had a comment that, did anyone want to talk about exterior colors? Do you, we don't have any color requirements in this. Did you?
I don't want to get too, I don't want to pick out the wallpaper or the color too much,
No,
but I
no.
do think that we should have some gentle language that says it will fit in with the landscape, right? Or you just don't want, does that make
Garish,
sense?
yeah. We cannot, on a single-family housing project, it's hard to limit the language for design or beauty, but because we're giving them the densest product in our county, we can have some gentle language there, and I could add exterior colors shall blend harmoniously with natural colors in the view of the project and site, or something to that
Yeah, I
effect.
think, white siding would not necessarily fit there.
So I'll add that to...
I apologize, anybody that has white siding, it just, that's not the landscape around it.
It
so.
wouldn't fit with the hills in the back. So I'll add that around lines 563, and then I also have some punctuation changes I'd like to make at lines 674, adding an and, adding a period here and there, just clean up from the Planning Commission recommendation.
Okay.
And then I can make all those changes on the fly, and you'll have to, if you enact an ordinance today, you'll have to say, in accordance with the changes we made verbally.
And the language about garage dominated versus not, all that is in there. I noticed on lines.
Yes.
In the 600 range, we talked about that.
Yes, it's all in there,
Yep.
where you have to make these projects community-facing, community-oriented, so they feel integrated into a whole community.
And you'll add the WUI stuff in there as well?
Yes, I will add WUI, and I'll add the Ash Creek and Water District language that we talked about at the top of the last hour.
I have one last question. So if, we're not doing a zone change today.
There are
We're just-
no
we're just
zone changes.
We're just putting this as an option. So a zone change is going to allow public comment as well.
Again.
And at that point, they would be reviewing the project itself, right? So
Exactly.
So the public could talk about things about like transportation and different problems that have been brought up here. There'll be another chance to talk about those.
Yeah.
as
Any
well.
zone change will have to come in with a project plan that has all those items baked into the project plan, and they can't get a zone change without a full project plan or even request a zone change.
Yeah.
And go forward to its public hearing. So that will be before the Planning Commission for every zone change. There'll be a radius that gets notice of that zone change, and then there'll be another public meeting before you. You won't have to have another public hearing. I think it was very fortuitous and nice of the commissioners to have another public hearing, because I know there was a lot of interest in the community.
Well, I want to thank everybody that's commented, because actually it's been very helpful, so.
Yeah, and we want to be responsive to the public, so that's good. Okay, anything else for Victoria? Good luck.
Well, you haven't enacted it yet.
No,
so-
I'm not, I'm saying on those changes, but it seems like we were all in agreement on the changes, so
That's not a problem.
I will take a motion.
Well, for those who have concerns about the ground, the soil, the geographer or geologist that was here, we also have restrictions on dynamiting, and all those things are just part of the building process.
Yes, all of our hillside ordinances apply, all of our building code will apply, everything will apply to each project. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this ordinance 2026-1318-0 with the amendments that we've talked, the amendments and changes that we've discussed. And that's my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Sorry that took so long, and I was about to tell my grandkids they can't come for Christmas.
Yeah.
Because we would...
We better hurry up, because we all have a caucus
We
meeting
all
at
do have
7
a
o'clock. So.
7 o'clock urgent meeting, so. Item number 7 is consideration of resolution number R 2026-3721, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding with the Washington County Water Conservancy District regarding a park in Central. Victoria, should we get you a stool?
I hope everyone appreciates what Victoria has written in the previous one and everything else.
Well, you know, it's always my favorite day when I get to talk about zoning codes and exciting stuff like that.
Maybe before we jump into this, Victoria, while you gather, just for some of our staff who are still here and commissioners, is there anything urgent on this that we need to? I saw Cameron just stepped out.
Can we shuffle?
Maybe to some of our other staff, is there something that needs to be addressed? Like if we tabled something, we have a special meeting, or we could have a special meeting on Friday maybe to address some of these things. Is anything urgent, Ed? Okay, Ryan, you have one. Which one? 10? Okay, so if we went through just maybe a motion that we table items 11 through 70,000, however many we have,
Cameron,
through 20, to a later meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table items 11 through 20 on our agenda.
Unless you...
No, I got the heads up, or the thumbs up from them. They said yes, okay. So we have a motion to table items 11 through 20.
Through 19, okay. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor to amend the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, now Victoria.
Okay, this is...
Staff, thanks for coming, and I hope you enjoyed that. That was fun, right? All of our tourism staff who doesn't deal with land use planning.
Write up a report later.
Sorry about that. I love my long public meetings, unlike most people. So, Memorandum of Understanding between Washington County and the Water District. The Water District has generously offered the county an opportunity to use district land for development of a community park in Central, right by the fire station. The primary purpose for the land is Water District groundwater wellhead protection, and groundwater and wellhead protection. So allowing recreation enhancements will be allowed under this memorandum of understanding if the primary purpose of the land is not impacted. So the goal is for the county to partner with the Water District for use of the land for recreation enhancements. Then later on your agenda, the next two items will be a goal for the county to partner with a third-party nonprofit for the community to construct and maintain the park. The Water District lawyers are tweaking the final language in the Memorandum of Understanding. We'd like to get your approval tonight, subject to final approval of the document by the county attorney's office, like we do in many of our resolutions, and that's already baked into the resolution. I have a meeting with them when Zach gets back into town, and so we'll have it wrapped up by the end of next week.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt item 7, consisting of Resolution R-2026-3721.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 8 is a public hearing to consider an agreement with a Central Community Park nonprofit for construction and long-term maintenance of the park, with the possibility that a special service district with assessments might be used in the future if the nonprofit model isn't successful. No special service district is being created at this time.
We're having an extra public hearing, one that we aren't required to have by law, because this particular project it has the possibility in the future, if the nonprofit model isn't working, that you might have to create a special service district to take over maintenance and possible improvements or enhancements to the park. That's the only reason the public hearing is noticed up. I did just want to say that this is the second agreement related to use of the Water District's land for park enhancements. I also wanted to commend the nonprofit. If you can see at the end of the agreement, all of the community people who have agreed to help construct the park. There's a long list of people in the community who are passionate about creation of this park and who have donated their time, money, services. A lot of people in the community are helping build the park, and I think it will be a respectful project in the central area. And then you'll have to have a public hearing before approving it.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second to open a public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're now in public hearing. Anybody want to come speak to the Central Park? Nope. You don't have to at all. Seeing none to speak to the public hearing.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is now closed. Item number 9 is the consideration of Resolution R 2026-3722, a resolution approving a park construction and maintenance agreement with Central Community Park nonprofit regarding the Central Community Park. Victoria, we'll just let you sit there since you've already covered it, so. Anyone at all? Anybody want to, do anything?
I move to approve resolution number R 2026-3722.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much on that one. Sorry, we should have swapped those two. I didn't know where everybody was from. All right, number 10 is consideration of Resolution R 2026-3723, a resolution accepting the proposal of Runbeck Election Services and authorizing an agreement for election equipment and services. Ryan.
Thank you for taking this last agenda item. It is urgent that we hopefully get this passed, that we can get this ordered and in place for our primary election that's coming up. We had an RFP that took place. We had one responded and one that was late, but we were really pleased, the one that did respond.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt item 10, Resolution R-2026-3723, a resolution accepting the proposal from Runbeck Election Services and authorizing an agreement for election equipment and services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. With that, again, we will table items 11 through 20 and direct staff to add those to the next commission agenda whenever that, if special or general, and or regular, and with that, we will stand adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Good job.
All right.
Thank you.
Sorry to make you sit that long.